Hi, we're going to talk about IEPs. IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act of 1975, is a federal education law for students with at least one of 13 qualifying categories of disability. These students also need specialized support and instruction to benefit from education. This specialized support and instruction is provided in a special education plan or an IEP. An IEP must be individualized to meet a student's unique needs. Referral for special education, there's a safeguard that written request triggers a strict timeline and an affirmative obligation to assess the student. Child fine provisions of IDEA law address this. In short, a school district has 25 school days to respond to a request, 35 school days to complete an evaluation, and 30 calendar days to write and implement an individualized education program for an eligible student. And this is Washington state law. Parents generally make initial referrals for special education or 504 assessment, but it can be anyone concerned about the student's educational needs. A safeguard, if a parent asks verbally, the district is obligated to put a parent's request in writing. Students must be comprehensively assessed in all areas of suspected disability to determine need for special education. Parents' consent is required for assessment. Independent or outside assessments must be considered, and parents have the right to review the results of the assessments in advance of the IEP meeting. Remember FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, is a federal law that affords parents the right to have access to their children's education records, the right to seek to have the records amended, and the right to have some control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information from the education records. When a student turns 18 years old or enters a post-secondary institution at any age, the rights under FERPA transfer from the parents to the student. FERPA has to be available in a parent's home language. Assessment needs to be done in a child's home language or mode of communication. The variety of tools and strategies must be used to determine if a child has a disability under IDEA and to contribute to the contents of the IEP document. Technically sound instruments, qualified professionals need to be used, and parents have a right to disagree via IEE, the Independent Educational Evaluation at Public Expense. Parents can appeal decisions and or seek a 504 plan. If a student is evaluated and determined ineligible for IEP services, the family has a right to appeal the decision and or to seek an independent education evaluation. The rights are similar if the district refuses to conduct an initial evaluation. Family caregivers also can work with the school to develop a Section 504 plan which accommodates a person with a disability that impacts a major life activity like learning, walking, speaking, writing, socializing. Section 504 is an aspect of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which protects the civil rights of individuals with disabilities against discrimination throughout their lifespan. The intent of IDEA is to expect success and presume competence of the child, provide access to general education curriculum, prepare students for their future and expand their future, strengthen the role and responsibility of parents, ensure that special education, ensure that special education is a service rather than a place where children are sent, and provide appropriate instruction, services, and supports in regular environments. Use technology to maximize accessibility and promote democracy. Please note that a request for special education evaluation is not a recommendation to remove a student from the regular classroom and move them into an exclusive learning environment. Federal and state laws require that students eligible for special education services receive their education in the least restrictive environment to the maximum extent appropriate. IEP preparation. Districts must provide written notice of IEP meeting, the date, the time, and participants that will be attending. Parents can ask for certain people to attend the IEP meeting, and all written materials and assessment reports have to be available 5 working days before the meeting for parents or guardians to have access to. Team rules, translators as requested or needed should be available. Others may attend at an invitation of parent or district who has knowledge of the student. Persons inviting has the right to determine appropriateness. A team member may be excused when the parent and the school district consent to the excusal. Team members may be excused when his or her area, is not being discussed or modified. And teams can meet by alternate ways, speakerphone, video conference, etc. An IEP, think of it this way. Special education is a service. Visualize an elevator. Ground floor is the plop, right? So plop is a present level of performance. The next floor is where the team expects the child can be by this time next year at an annual IEP review. Everyone must want to get to the same place. Do some expect the 5th floor and others only the 2nd? Is the elevator uncomfortably crowded? Are you the odd man out? Sometimes you wish you wouldn't have to share the elevator with certain people. And sometimes people make each other uncomfortable. Sometimes somebody wants to go down and you are trying to go up. Some people take over the buttons and won't let you push. Some people press the closed door button when they don't want you in. Sometimes you have to press the alarm button, and sometimes the whole elevator comes to a stop. But who will you call? What will you do? Will you be afraid? Will you take charge? If the elevator is not maintained, someday it may fail. What is necessary for maintenance, and whose responsibility is it? The big questions the IEP team must answer: where are we now? The present level of education performance, or plot. One of the most important things about an IEP is the determination of the plot. Where are we going? Goals and objectives. How are we going to get there? Services and instruction. And how do we know when we have succeeded? Measurement. What objective data will tell us if we have succeeded? How and when progress will be reported to the parents. We need to be accountable and we need to stay on track. IDEA requires that each IEP must include a statement of the child's present level of academic achievement and functional performance. This part of the IEP is commonly referred to as the present level statement. For short, it is called sometimes present levels or PLOP. All right. Examples of current levels of functional performance may include results of social emotional rating scales or other assessments, and observations of problems the student has with task refusal, test anxiety, inability to speak in front of a group, or lack of skills interacting with a group. PLOP is not limited to academic performance only. So you want your goals on an IEP to be SMART goals. You want them to be specific, measurable, have action words to describe what the child will be able to do. They need to be realistic or relevant to a child's unique needs that result from the disability, and they need to be time limited. What does a child need to know and be able to do after 1 year of special education? These goals are monitored at regular intervals. Okay, so goal is more than being there. So an example is Kylie will participate in physical education. Rewrite it to say, provided with adapted equipment, strategies, and training within the general education physical education class, With support from the adapted PE instructor, Kylie will acquire skills in 3 or more physical education activities that promote flexibility and strength in upper arms and body, promote balance and independent movement as measured by APE data collection and PE grade comments in school report cards. So this is a SMART goal. It's measurable. It tells you what you want to see, and it has a time limit. Clarity. Stan will communicate better. So you can rewrite it. Stan will increase his sign language vocabulary to 300 words as described in the sign language notebook that travels between home and school by June 30th. Placement. Last part of an IEP meeting is protect the least restrictive environment. We talked a little bit about that before. Placement is a set of services provided to the student, not a place for the student to go. Watch for label and sort offers. Least restricted environment must be protected in offers of instructional and other settings. Consider supports and services to protect the least restrictive environment. Appropriate placement is one in which the student has a reasonable expectation of achieving IEP goals. So usually the least restrictive environment is expressed as a percentage. IDEA has a strong presumption that students with disabilities learn with their non-disabled peers, homeschool or in general ed or typical classes. Supports and services should protect the least restrictive environment. And be vigilant. Ask where is the data to support removal from typical learning environments to best support the student in your class. When districts proposes or refuses to do something that involves the child identification, assessment, placement, or FAP, parent is required to receive a prior written notice. It's a description of the action proposed or refused, explanation of why the school proposes or refuses to take that action, and each evaluation procedure test report that the school used as a basis has to be part of the prior written notice. A copy of a parent's right to challenge the action or inaction is included, sources of advocacy to assist for parents, other options the school considered and why they were rejected, and other reasons for the school action or inaction. So that's an IEP in a nutshell. I hope it gives you a little more clarity. And as we've been reading, that your knowledge of what an IEP is for a student and the intent of IDEA to expect success, presume competence, provide access to the general education curriculum, prepare students for their future and expand their future, strengthen the role and responsibility of parents, ensure that special education is a service rather than a place where children are sent, provide appropriate instruction, services, and supports in regular environments, and promote democracy, and help each child gain the success in their education journey. See you online.